Part 3, Revenge, continued. The confirmation email arrived at 11:42 p.m. verified. Proceed, just 2 words, clean and simple. But they hit like the quiet click of a door unlocking. I sat at my small desk in the apartment, lamplight pooling over the spread of documents I'd arranged in neat rows. Tax statements. Grant records. Receipts with identical handwriting but different names. Expenses labeled community outreach that correlated suspiciously well with dates of Marlene's vacations. Outside, the river groaned under shifting ice. Wind scraped across the metal balcony railing. Inside, everything was still. I leaned back in my chair, let the email settle into my bones. This wasn't triumph, not satisfaction, just a steadying confirmation that there was no turning back. My plan, was already in motion, but this was the signal to tighten every bolt, every step, every controlled detonation. Step 1, the first hairline crack. 3 mornings later, I made a call during my break at the county office. "Hi, this is regarding a financial discrepancy review," I told the woman at the State Charitable Oversight Division. "I'm following up on a potential misuse of funds from a religious non-profit, small, local, name is Haven Circle Outreach." Silence. Then typing. "Haven Circle, yes. We have your documentation. It has been flagged." Flagged, such a simple word for what was coming. "We'll begin a preliminary inquiry," she continued. "If we require additional documentation, we'll reach out." Of course. I ended the call and slid my phone into my pocket across the office. My supervisor walked past my desk, tapping a file against her leg. "Morning," she said casually. I nodded back. Everything normal. Everything quiet. Step 1 was nothing dramatic. No fireworks, just the start of a paper trail that Marlene could never outrun. Step 2, the subtle isolation. Revenge, I believed, didn't work if it landed all at once. It had to come in waves, small enough to be dismissed at first, but steady enough to unsettle the ground beneath her feet. So I started small. The first seed. The next Sunday, I attended the church service for the first time in years. I didn't wear anything dramatic, just a navy sweater and black trousers. Something neutral. Something unremarkable, but me being there at all was remarkable enough. The congregation buzzed the moment I walked in. Whispers brushed the air like moth wings. I sat in the back pew with a quiet posture, hands folded, eyes forward. Marlene was 3 rows from the front. She turned mid-hymn and froze when she saw me, just for a fraction of a second. A flash of something crossed her face. Not fear yet, just irritation laced with unease. After the service, people formed the usual circles, coffee cups, handshakes, small talk about weather and home repairs. I didn't join any. I simply stood by the bulletin board, reading the announcements as if I had a reason to be there. Then I murmured, just loud enough for 2 nearby volunteers to hear. "Strange. They're re-auditing small charities this month? Thought they only did that for suspected mismanagement." A woman beside me stiffened. Her friend leaned closer. "Why? What did you hear?" "Oh," I said lightly, "just something from work." "Probably nothing." I pinned a donation flyer to the corkboard and walked away. By the time I reached the exit, the whisper was already spreading, not about Marlene specifically, not yet, just about audits and timing and the possibility of trouble brewing somewhere. The seed was planted. Step 3, destabilization. Over the next 2 weeks, Marlene's routine began to shift, not dramatically. Not enough for her to realize the slope she was standing on, but enough for me to notice. She started staying later after prayer meetings. Her voice in public conversations grew sharper, tighter. She paced during phone calls in the grocery store parking lot instead of sitting in her car like she used to. She snapped at a teenage volunteer for using the wrong tape on a donation poster, and she watched me whenever I appeared, at the bank, in the library, at the farmer's market. Her eyes tracked me like a threat she couldn't identify. She knew something was wrong, but not what, not why. That was intentional. Step 4, the document drop. Step for required precision. I prepared a packet, thick, neatly organized, color-coded tabs. No accusations. Just facts, receipts, grant inconsistencies, email printouts, unaccounted funds. The last page was the kicker, a simple spreadsheet showing that nearly $42,000 in the charitable expenses never reached any registered beneficiaries. I slipped the packet into a plain manila envelope and mailed it directly to the Board of Directors, Haven Circle Outreach, not anonymously, openly. Sender, County Records Department. Citizen concern submission, my name included. No attempt at hiding. Why? Because the truth was clean and she had built her power on the assumption that no one would ever dare confront her in the open. 2 days later, I mailed an identical packet to the state oversight investigator, with a short note as requested, supporting documentation enclosed. If you require in-person clarification, I'm available. 3 days after that, movement started. Step 5. The church doors close a little. A week later, after the Sunday service, I watched the pastor call Marlene aside. They spoke near the choir loft, his voice quiet and careful, her posture stiff as a winter branch. People noticed. The prayer group women, her loyal satellites, hovered nearby, exchanging glances, whispering behind hands. Marlene tried to laugh it off, tried to touch the pastor's arm in that familiar, rehearsed gesture of control. He stepped back, just a half inch, but enough. The first public rejection she'd ever been given. She looked around, seeing eyes on her for the first time, not admiring, but evaluating. Suspicion spread through the congregation like a cold draft, not certainty or just the possibility of wrongdoing. Human beings fear the possibility more than the fact. Step 6. The panic. 2 days later, she showed up at my apartment building. I opened the door to find her standing in the hallway, wrapped in a heavy wool coat despite the mild evening air. Her hair, normally arranged with the precision of someone who believed appearance equaled truth, was slightly undone. Her eyes darted past me into the apartment, scanning for something. Well, she said, breath tight, I think we should talk. I leaned against the doorframe. About what? You know what. Do I? Her jaw tightened. You've been implying things. Spreading rumors. I haven't said anything about you. That's not what I'm hearing. Then maybe you should ask the people who are talking why they're talking. Her nostrils flared. You think you're clever, she said. You think you can play these little games. But you don't understand how this town works. I understand exactly how it works. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. You have no idea the damage you're doing. I'm not doing anything, I said calmly. But if you're worried, that's interesting. Her lips parted, shock, then fear, then anger swirling in quick succession. She inhaled like she was about to lecture me, but then stopped because she didn't know what I knew. Didn't know what I'd already sent. Didn't know where the walls were or how fast they were closing. She opened her mouth again, then shut it, turned left fast, almost tripping on the last step of the stairwell. The panic had begun. Step 7. The breakdown of her image. Over the next month, things started falling apart in ways only someone as image-obsessed as Marlene would truly feel. 1. The pastor makes an announcement one Sunday morning. The pastor stood at the pulpit and said there will be an internal review of all church-affiliated charitable partners. He didn't look at her, but everyone else did. 2. Her prayer group shrinks. 2 women stopped coming entirely. 1 avoided her in the parking lot. The last remained loyal, but with visible discomfort. Marlene tried to keep up appearances. Brought extra pastries. Complimented strangers. Volunteered for every task, but the smiles around her grew strained. People weren't sure anymore, and uncertainty is deadly. 3. The whispering turns inward. The rumors she used to wield like weapons were now turned against her. Something about the charity. I heard the state contacted the board. She seemed upset during the meeting. Someone mentioned missing funds. No names. No accusations, just echoes. She couldn't silence. Step 8. Confrontation. The breaking point came on a Thursday evening. The board had called an emergency session. I wasn't present. I didn't need to be. At 9:13 p.m. My phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. She knows it was you. She's losing it. Be careful. I recognized the style. 1 of the board members. Someone I had spoken to briefly about unrelated paperwork months ago. I didn't reply. Instead, I waited. At 10:06 p.m. The knock came loud, uncontrolled. I opened the door to find Marlene again, but this time she wasn't composed. Her eyes were red, her hands shaking. You, she said, voice raw. You did this to me. I didn't do anything. You think you can stand there and pretend innocence? After destroying everything I built. You didn't build anything, I said quietly. You siphoned money. You lied. You bullied people. You used charity as a cover. Her face twisted. You ungrateful, she stopped, words choking, trembling. You think you're righteous. Her voice cracked like something brittle finally snapping. You think what you're doing is justice. I didn't decide anything, I said. Numbers did. You don't understand, I understand perfectly. She staggered back a step, gripping the handrail of the stairwell. I never meant to hurt anyone, she whispered. I only ever tried to help your family. No, I said. You tried to control it. Her breath stuttered, and for the first time, she looked small, breakable, like someone standing in the rubble of a world she thought was indestructible. Please, she said softly, the first please I had ever heard from her in my life. I can fix it. I just need help. I held the door at my side. You should talk to the board, I said. And the investigator. Her mouth opened in horror. You're not going to help me. No. Her knees weakened, and not dramatically and not collapsing, just a subtle buckle that forced her to grip the railing tighter. Please, she whispered again, voice fractured. I'm begging you. I looked at her for a long moment, not cruelly and not triumphantly, just clearly. You spent years making sure no one believed me, I said. Now you need someone to believe you. A pause. That's the consequence. Then I closed the door, quietly, deliberately. Her shaky breathing echoed in the hallway for a full 10 seconds before she finally descended the stairs, each step unsteady, as if the ground were tilting beneath her. But the revenge wasn't done yet. It was only reaching the point where she understood the scale, the real damage, the collapse of her world. Her status, her power, was still unfolding, and she was about to lose far more than reputation. She was about to lose everything she built her life on. Part 3, the climax, Marlene's collapse. 1. How Marlene was thoroughly investigated. The true exposure. The day the town investigation team officially stepped in was a windy morning. I stood outside the town hall, watching a silver government vehicle pull up in front of Marlene's house. She had thought the investigation would be routine, that nothing significant would be found, but this time, they brought an entire box of documents. From schools, from parents, from colleagues she had suppressed, even from a new teacher she had forced out years ago. Everyone, as if waking up all at once, laid out all the details that had been hidden, threatened, or humiliated over the years. When the investigators knocked on her door, Marlene was wearing her always pristine grey cardigan, her face carrying the soft smile of the town's first lady. But as the investigators opened complaints, photos, and recordings, her complexion changed from healthy pink to unnatural white, then to a startling grey. The investigator asked routinely, "Do you need to explain these allegations?" Her hand shook so badly she couldn't even hold a pen. She had never imagined anyone would dare dig up her past, and certainly not on this scale. And this was only the beginning. Point 2. How Marlene tried to fight back but only dug herself deeper. The real defeat. Marlene's first reaction wasn't reflection, nor an apology. It was attack. She started calling former colleagues, tried to suppress negative documents using connections, ran to the town offices, trying to block everyone involved in the investigation. She even tried to point all the blame at me, claiming I was an emotionally unstable ex-son-in-law who harbored grudges over the family breakup. But this time, all of her attempts failed, because every time she tried to disprove one piece of evidence, another surfaced. The more she explained, the more she exposed herself, the more she tried to control the narrative, the weaker she appeared, the harder she tried to crush others, the more she looked like a drowning person flailing for air. A young female investigator in the team delivered the final blow with a single sentence, "Marlene, your explanations directly contradict the facts we have." Her face froze like a mask. The town saw her for the first time losing control, and I knew the one thing she feared most in life was losing control of a situation. Point 3. The town's attitude shifts, losing her territory. The news spread like wildfire. People who had once respected and feared her did so because they thought she was proper, perfect, worthy of respect. Once that facade cracked, they saw what was inside: selfishness, cruelty, obsession with control. duplicity. Our parents, who had been too scared to speak up, began to step forward. Her neighbors she had mocked or belittled stopped nodding when they saw her on the street. Even the cashier at the grocery store forced a stiff smile. The most striking moment came at the town church. She walked in as usual, with her proper smile, trying to maintain her image as a pillar of the community. But Mrs. Henderson, sitting in the second row, glanced at her and whispered, "All these years, we've been deceived by you." In that instant, the whole church turned to look at her, those eyes, not gossiping, not amused, but cold, absolute disappointment. Marlene stood there, breathing raggedly. She realized her kingdom was gone. For Marlene's desperation, collapse, and pleading, the moment she hated to show weakness, the final breakdown came on a rainy night. She appeared at my front yard, soaking wet, her shoes sinking into the mud with heavy thuds. I opened the door to see her clutching the frame, her face pale, like someone suddenly drained of all strength. For the first time, her voice trembled as she called my name. "Please, help me." I had never seen her like this. In the past, her voice had always been steady, commanding, graceful. Now, she was like a featherless bird. She said she couldn't hold on. She said the investigators would tear her apart. She said the entire town was watching her for amusement. She even said, "I've never lost in my life. I can't lose to you." Then she collapsed into tears, uncontrollably streaming down her face. She grabbed my sleeve, her voice breaking. "You please, say something. Let me salvage, just a little. I can't take this." But she didn't know. The situation was no longer in her hands. 5. The final, irrevocable outcome, total collapse of her facade. The day the investigation results were released, she didn't leave her house. The town's announcement was posted in the town hall lobby for everyone to see. Her manipulation, her exaggerations, her abuses of power, the harm she had caused others, and the most damning note, severely lacking in moral standards, unfit for any public-related duties. She was removed from all committees, parent-teacher associations, volunteer organizations. Everything she had used to maintain her perfect lady's persona evaporated in a single day. That night, her house was dark. Neighbors reported seeing her sitting motionless in the living room, like a shadow without fire. She had always fought to maintain dignity, image, and control, but in the end, she lost not just her reputation. She lost the very sense of superiority she had built her life around, and the words she whispered in collapse still echo in my mind. "You shouldn't have let anyone see me." But the truth is, she wasn't seen by us. She shattered herself.